Howdy! Welcome to Aspire Mountain Academy. I'm Professor Curtis, your instructor for this course in Introductory Statistics. In less than 10 minutes, this video provides practice in performing hypothesis testing and constructing confidence interval estimates for two independent population means. Let's get started. So the example that we're going to use as we work through our practice session in this mini lecture involves creativity research. So here's how it was set up. So all the subjects that were part of the research study were asked to think of creative uses for a brick. Some of the subjects were tested in a room with a red background, and other subjects were tested in a room with a blue background. And they gave their responses, and there was a panel of judges that was involved. So, basically we're trying to figure out, does the color of the environment have effect on how creative the individual can be? So we're testing this difference at the 1% significance level. So alpha is 1%. And the claim is that blue enhances performance on creative tasks. So the first thing we want to do is check our requirements. Okay. First, we're going to collect our summary statistics. So here's a table that shows our summary stats. So there were 35 people in the red room, 36 people in the blue room, and the average number of examples, creative tasks, ways to use a brick, that the red room came out with was 3.39, and the average number of responses from the blue room, 3.97. And you see the sample standard deviations there at the end of the table. So here's our summary stats, and these are going to come in handy when we go to use StatCrunch. Now, notice in this example, the red room has the lower sample size, and so that's what we're going to use for determining the degrees of freedom for our student T distribution. So N1 minus 1 is going to be 34. So we take 1 from that lower sample size. Okay, and that's the typical convention that we use. We've got two samples of differing sizes here. Now we've got our summary stats all sorted out. We can check our requirements. So we have values of two population standard deviations. We don't know what they are. We're assuming that they're not equal. The subject groups are independent. Okay, there's no real connection between people in the red room and people in the blue room. Samples are simple random samples. And both sample sizes exceed 30, so it doesn't matter whether or not they're normally distributed. Central limit theorem comes in and says, yes, you're good to go. Now, we're ready to form our hypotheses. First, as always, we think about what is the claim that's being made. Well, here the claim that's being made is that blue enhances performance on creative tasks. So that means, on average, the blue room should come up with more responses than the red room. Okay, the blue room was actually mentioned second, so it's going to be mu2, and then the red room was mentioned first, so that's going to be mu1. So we have mu1 is less than mu2. Next, we write our hypotheses. So null hypothesis, as always, is a statement of equality. So we can write it in this fashion, where both of the population means are equal to each other. And then the claim typically represents it becomes the alternative hypothesis. There's no semblance of equality in our claim, so we can just adopt that as our alternative hypothesis. Notice that this inequality sign is the less than sign, is like an arrow pointing to the left. That says we have a one-tailed test on the left side of the distribution. Now we're ready to test our claim. If we use the test statistic, we need to compare that with the critical value. So calculating this old school style, get out this nasty little formula here, and we're going to plug in everything that we've got. So notice from our sample table that we had earlier, okay, we've got the two sample mean values here. This next difference here is 0 because this is an alternative form of the null hypothesis, and we're proceeding on the assumption that the null hypothesis is true. So if the two mean values are equal to each other, which is what we would have if the null hypothesis were true, then this quantity here is 0. And then down below we've got our sample standard deviations, which we square, and then the different sample sizes. And we punch all that out on our calculator, and out comes negative 2.979. This is our test statistic. We then go to our t-calculator, our t-distribution, or you can use a table. You're going to get the same thing out of it. So 34 degrees of freedom, as we saw earlier, and we were testing at the 1% significance level. So that value goes in here. It's a left tail test, so we've got just the one tail on the left. Put all that in, and out comes our critical value, negative 2.44. So our test statistic, negative 2.979, is going to be a little bit in here somewhere. So we're inside that region of rejection, and therefore we can reject the null hypothesis. Alternatively, we use the p-value. We'll be comparing that with our significance level. So here we get the test statistic is the boundary for the area that is the p-value. So when we put that into our t-distribution, we get a p-value of 0.00265, and comparing that then with our significance level, we're smaller than the significance level. So the area for the p-value fits inside the area of the significance level. Therefore, we're in the region of rejection, and therefore we reject the null hypothesis. Either way, you come out with the same answer. We rejected the null hypothesis, so we're going to accept the claim that blue enhances performance on creative tasks. However, the proper way to word it is like this: there's sufficient evidence to support the claim that blue enhances performance on creative tasks. Notice where each part of this statement comes from. There is sufficient evidence because we rejected the null hypothesis. We support the claim because we have a one-tailed test, and the rest of the statement is just a rehash of the claim itself. To construct a confidence interval estimate for this same situation, our hypothesis test involved the population mean, so that's what our confidence interval is going to do. And because we're dealing with mean values, the confidence interval is just as reliable as the formal hypothesis test method that we just looked at. So first we calculate our margin of error, and then we can plug that into our general form to create our confidence interval. So here's the formula for margin of error, and we plug in what we've got. So our t alpha over 2, that's a critical value with a two-tailed test. That comes out of our t-distribution, and then the other values we had from that sample table that we saw earlier. Out comes 0.475 for our margin of error. So then there's the general form. We plug in the values that we have into the general form, and then solve for our lower and upper bounds, and we get what you see here on the screen. 0 is not inside the confidence interval. Okay, that means we conclude that there is some difference in the mean number of creative ideas each group produces. And because all of the confidence interval is in the negative territory, that means mu2 will always be greater than mu1, which means the people in the blue room are producing more ideas than the people in the red room. The same thing we got out of the hypothesis test. That brings us to the end of this mini lecture. I hope you found it helpful. You can find more mini lectures for this and other courses at AspireMountainAcademy.com. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.